examples when you can get the 6 special notice and not have 6 in the tritype? Yes, there are. Now, are they infrequent? Absolutely. So if you received a special notice, it's telling you that you are using a pattern that 6s and 9s use. And if you're getting a lot of the 6 messages, then you're doing things in a way that are consistently inconsistent. Whereas the 9 is inconsistent, but they're not as consistent in the way they're inconsistent. It's more random. So
Inconsistently inconsistent.
yeah, inconsistently inconsistent. Yeah. And so they might, in the top choices, every time I gave 3 cards to rank or sentences to rank, the 6 might rank one over the other, and then it shows up later because of their choices, and then they rank it the reverse. Whereas the 9, it'll be sometimes it's this, sometimes it's that. And what's important is they're meant to do that. It's not the 6 and 9 aren't as capable or competent. The 6 is meant to conceal their insecurities. They're not going to reveal their type. And people trash 6s. They trash every type. So why would you want to expose something where people are going to project all over you? And who worries about that the most? The type that uses the defense strategy of projection, which is the 6. And the 9, it's more that they have this wonderful ability to identify with all the types. As a result, they can do that. I can do that too. Sometimes I do that. And that's why they change answers. Whereas the 6 might also say, wait a minute, who's seeing this test? And they want to trick the test or test the test. So they'll give different answers is one thing that'll happen. Another thing that can happen if the 6 is really trying hard to answer the test accurately,
depends.
They might have been told they're a 1. So they'll choose the 1 cards to be loyal to the person who said they were a 1. And then when I ask them, well, why did you choose the 1 card when you've just used all the 6 cards? They'll say, oh, well, because someone told me I was a 1, and someone they like or respect. It wouldn't just be anybody. And then I say, okay, compare the adjectives now and tell me what's true. And then they'll say, well, it's actually 6. So that's part of the projection again, the projecting that to be included, to be safe, and to feel like you know what's important to survive, you're going to go with the person you respect most. And yet, at the same time, they will ask a lot of people, well, how do you see me? Whereas I would maybe ask 2 people if I was learning the system. I'm not going to ask everyone what they think. And 6s will also say, well, what would you do in this situation? It doesn't mean they're going to do what you say, but it's data, additional data points as a mental type. Now, what a lot of people don't know, because I don't stress it as much, is that 3s have just as much trouble typing. The only reason they know they're a 3 is all the keywords for type 3 fit what they're focused on. Having said that, other people can type like a 3 and not be a 3 if they've been focused on success their whole lives. And socials might want to be successful, or parenting might say you've got to be successful. So back to the original question is like, how do you know the difference? And how do you determine what is important? And that is, when you're taking the test, understand that at the very beginning of the test, I gave you 3 cards for each Enneagram type. You put them in the order of your own ranking. So you then determined how you were served the cards. So people don't realize how individualized it is. So I might come out as an 874 and someone else might be an 874. But did we choose the same 3 cards? No, that's another variable that is made available through this testing instrument. And I did that all deliberately because we have these identifications. So are there special notices that you might receive and not be that type? Yeah, there are particular examples. If you have 6 or 9 in your tritype, you might get that message. You might be a 9. And if you have 6, it will just confirm it. But you might be a 9 that doesn't have 6, but you might still get the messages because of the inconsistency in a particular way. It's not just any inconsistency. There are many factors that go into it. It's not a single thing you can do or not do. The other thing is if you are 6, you could get that message for sure because you identify with the stronger type in your tritype than the 6 because you're just not even seeing the 6 at all. The other example where 6 could show up is if someone's an extremely self-pres person. In other words, they have self-pres really high and the other instincts are low, both the others. So if you are self-pres in such a way that you run a lot of fear, you might relate to some of the pictures on the test. So that is an exception. Then in a lesser way, if you have a very strong wing you identify with, so if you're a 7 or a 5 and you've experienced a lot of fear or trauma in your life, you're going to choose the 6 card in one particular place that doesn't mean you're a 6, but your choices wouldn't be right for you. So you end up with the 6 card, but you're comfortable doing so because you know the fear you experienced as a child. So we could say that's part of a kind of residue of PTSD. So when people say, do I have a different type because of experiencing trauma? The answer is no. But do you identify with a different type because of trauma? Absolutely, that can happen. So if you see those messages, and depending on how many messages you have, it just means there's something very important to still learn about your particular tritype and your identifications. And that's what we want to sort. So what I do is I have the sentences as well to see which sentences you stack in what order according to the centers, and then the core fears and idealized images. So looking at everything overall is meaningful. And if you're really, really honest about the words you would use at the very beginning of the test, it reveals so much more. But since most people don't know how their test results are going to be used, they don't want to give their actual words. And I'm saying I never, ever share someone's name, even in my research. The only thing would be is if I noticed a particular pattern and I just happened to be scanning through the test, I might notify you if I see a very special pattern. And I might say, oh, you might identify with this type, but you really might want to look at this tritype. So sometimes people are surprised when they get an email from me. But it's just that I've noticed a very important pattern. But otherwise, I always ask for permission. And you never have to worry that I'm using the test in any way other than looking up a client when the client needs it, or if you can't find your test results. But people wouldn't know that. So the inclination is to come up with a different word or a better word. And I encourage you, if you tried to have the right words, take the test again and be more first gut impression as to what word you would use. And it may not change your outcome, but it will change your understanding of your outcome. You might see words that show a need for accuracy, a need for independence, a need for autonomy, a need for confidence. So if you're really honest, it gives you a lot of data to compare against your results. Does that make sense? Okay,